This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and welcome to Hangout number 60. I can't believe it, 60. I like those even numbers. Hey, everybody who's in the chat room, let me say hello to you all. Lisa S. is here, Carrie is here, Molly is here. Oh, Central Ohio. There's a little conversation going on where everybody is. So Molly's from Ohio. I'm going to... Oh, you really... Okay, this was so funny. Okay, what? Okay. You just confused me completely. It says Alfheim Jewelry. And I'm like, is this open to the public? Because in case you're wondering, all the Hangouts and all my live shows are open to patrons only of Patreon. And then after the show is finished, I make it public for everyone. But the live portion where you come to the chat room is for patrons only. So we have this great community, which you can, if you want to join, click on the Patreon link below. And so I'm like, Alfheim Jewelry, who is that person? How did they get in here? But I know who you are. So welcome. Thank God. You just scared me for a minute there. Oh, my goodness. And Michaela, I just want to say, you said you didn't make it to Ohio, but I was there. A Southern Belle has to be in the South. Oh, Southern Belle. And you said something. I was looking at this. Also want to say hello to who else is here? Sorry. Anna's here. And I'm going backwards now, and I'm getting lost here. Anyway, hello, everybody who's here. And Mary is here now. She just popped in. Okay, so I'm a little discombobulated, as my aunt used to say. And when I was a child, that was her favorite word. She would say, oh, I'm discombobulated. And we thought that was the funniest darn thing in the world. We didn't really think it was a real word, and then we found out it was. But yes, my granddaughter has been with me all afternoon. And so she was standing right next to me. And I said, it's getting to be showtime. Go away. So anyway, she's gone away. But she would really love to just be here on the show, but her mommy's not going to allow that. So anyway, all right. So what's happening this week? Hangouts are about whatever weird case things there are, things in the news, and a few of you have had some requests, so I want to talk about those requests. But let me start with, let me pull this one up here, because Hangout number 60. Yeah, pretty. In another seven Hangouts, it'll be my age. It's hard to believe because when I started this, I really had no idea it was going to continue. Somebody gave me the idea. They said, hey, you should do this, Pat. And I'd seen some YouTube stuff, but I never really considered. It's funny. I had a YouTube channel, but the YouTube channel I had years ago was just where I put up all the television work I did. Once the television show was over, then my son, who was always wonderful to help me, he would put the show up for me just so I'd have the show on my channel. I never thought of it as an active channel where I do things. So this was a completely new concept to me, and I really didn't know how it would work out. And I love it. I love it much more than I've ever loved doing television work because I get to control everything, and I like that. I get to decide what I'm talking about. No one could stop me. I don't have a producer out there going, I don't have the host giving me that look and changing the subject really quickly because I went someplace I wasn't supposed to go. So annoying. Oh, that's your age now, Lisa. Well, welcome to 60. All right. All right. So, okay. Now you're back as yourself. Glad to see that I don't have this open to the public at the moment. I did that, and it just was such crazy stuff. And I'm gonna, I'll do that now because this is in the news. It's hold on a sec. Kiely Rodni, the young woman who it's been a super hot topic. Kiely Rodni went to a party out, with all the friends outside, and then she left the party and got in her car. Theoretically, nobody really saw this. So anyway, her car ends up under the water, and she drowns in the car. And this has been one of those internet things where everybody believes she's been murdered and it wasn't an accident. And so let me just pull this up. I forgot to pull this up, but I've talked about the case and said, look, as far as I can see, there's no sign that this was a murder. Everything points to the fact she simply drove into the drink. And that happens to so many people. And I think the last hangout, I talked about how quickly that can happen. I gave an example in the last hangout of two young women who went off the road, and they actually called a family member and said, I think she called her dad and said, we're drowning in the car. And it was fascinating in the sense that it showed how quickly it happened and how those two girls couldn't get out. That's the way it works. And so this is what happened to Kiely Rodni. However, the internet has gone, of course, nuts, and they're attacking the entire town and saying the entire town is like a cult, and they've done something to Kiely, and even her mother's part of the cult, and has accepted a ruling that her daughter drowned and it was accidental, and so her mother must be screwy. And if you know anything about the cases I talk about and how I've said so many times that suicides are almost always, the parents will say it's a homicide, and an accident, they'll even go there with accidents. And no, it couldn't have been an accident. It must be a homicide. And so when a parent actually goes along with what the police say, either they're just really able to accept things as they are, or they're part of a cult that the whole town is involved in. Anyway, let me just read you what it says. This came in 6 days ago. Finally, this is the final say. Although it's not the final say on the internet, I can tell you. Death investigation wraps up in the Kiely Rodni case. No foul play, accidental drowning. All right. The investigation of the death of 16-year-old Kiely Rodni has wrapped, with results concluding she accidentally drowned in her vehicle after it was driven into a lake. The Nevada County Sheriff's Office released Rodni's autopsy report, and I've read it. No sign of foul play. No, nothing except for the fact she had alcohol in her system and marijuana, and that was it. And she drowned. What's more, it says, okay, so she drowned in a lake while inside her vehicle. And one of the reasons people keep going on about she didn't die naturally in her vehicle is that she ended up in like the back of the vehicle and what do you call that area? Shoot. Forgot what the kind, but anyway, they're saying she wouldn't have ended up back there, and yes, she would, because what happens is when the car starts tanking downward, which it does, if you got water on top of you, you're going to crawl up, and you'll crawl up into the back as far as you can get to try to get air, and that's your last attempt to survive, and that's where she was found. Toxicology report: Rodni had both THC and ethanol in her system. That's alcohol. Although the ethanol could have been a process of decomposition. And that's true. And so this is where the conspiracy theories start coming in. Because, yes, when there's decomposition, that content, ethanol content, goes up. And then you can't say absolutely she was drunk off her butt. Chances are she was at a party drinking. But now they're going to say, oh, no, she didn't have anything to drink. See, it didn't prove she had anything to drink. It's just somebody did something to her. All right. Back in August, she first went missing after attending a party near Lake Tahoe in California about 2 weeks later. And this is why the decomposition thing is so important. 2 weeks is a bit of time in the water. And so your body goes through a lot of things. One thing it went through was there was apparently no real proof of water in her lungs, but see, the gases in the body do things. And that's why that happens. Her body was found by a team of YouTube divers, which was pretty incredible. But they even said, we think it could be homicide. And that just set everybody into a tizzy. All right. So the final report is that she was in the rear passenger section of her Honda. All right. And the autopsy reports came out and said they saw no signs of foul play and she drowned, and that's that. I would do a whole thing on this, but instead I'm going to link below. And what I'm linking to below is, let me find it here. Okay. The link below is going to the the interview room with Chris. I can't pronounce the guy's last name. Chris McDonough. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Anyway, he did a lot of stuff on Summer Wells. And I always preface when I recommend people, always preface it this way. I don't have to agree with every single thing they've ever done or every single conclusion they've come to for me to recommend them if I think they have a good channel that has legitimate information. He does open chat rooms, and I saw oh my gosh, I gotta say, Chris, bully for you to put up with that crap, because I saw this stuff coming in. He had like 90% of people coming in saying, how could you say she was murdered? Oh, Chris, you're off on this one. He just sits there and just goes like this. But the reason I don't want to do a whole show on it is because I think he did a really good show on it. And it's called Kiely Rodni Full Autopsy Report. And so he's reviewing that. It's an hour and a half long show. People are asking tons of questions. He's answering what he can. And I just think he did a good job. And I don't feel a need to repeat something. So I'd rather link it below and let you go there, because I think it's a pretty stellar review of the autopsy report and what happened to Kiely. And, Chris, props to you for putting up with the crap in that room, because I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Martin, what are you doing here? It's now after midnight in the UK. I'm glad you're here. No, I just told my granddaughter. She was asking me, because my granddaughter just came back from the UK. Let's see, when did she go? What month are we in? I guess before she started school. And so she visited her friends who have moved to the UK. And so she had a grand time there. And so now she knows England. She knows London. She knows a number of different towns in England. And so she feels she's been across to the UK. So she was asking about if anybody from the UK was here. And I said, well, no, probably not. Our great friends there are probably asleep. But hey, Martin is not asleep. So welcome, Martin. Michaela says, the people who served alcohol charged with murder, probably not, because I'm going to say, I think it was a total teen party. So, we're not talking about adults running this. We're not talking about her going to a bar and drinking underage. We're talking about one of those things which your child should not be at. But, sometimes kids go to those kind of things and drink too much, and that something bad happens. And that's all I can say. Something bad happens. And it's just the kind of thing, no, this is not true. See, this is Michaela. This is not true. If she drowned, there should be water in her lungs. Yes, if it wasn't a case of decomposition over 2 weeks. So, yeah, you drown in your bathtub, you should have water in your lungs. you pull you out of the lake within a short period of time, you'll have water in your lungs. Unless you have sometimes you'll actually have a throat close up and it'll block, and you actually won't have water in your lungs. That's another whole, they call it dry drowning. It's a whole other questionable thing. But no, because she was so decomposed, the gases just blow out the whole thing. So that's why, no, there's no water in the lungs. There's nothing that says Kiely was murdered. There's just nothing. And this is true, Michaela. Occam's razor is usually the most simplest explanation is usually correct. That's it. And unfortunately, alcohol, teenagers, cars, not a good combo, and lakes and rivers and that kind of thing. We have the entire case of, Minnesota, Wisconsin area where the young men have all been found dead in, the Mississippi and other waters, because Minnesota's got 10,000 lakes. And they made that the smiley face killer, some serial killer running around grabbing big, huge college boys and somehow drowning them without a sign and any kind of damage to their bodies. No. They just fell in and drowned because they were drunk off their butts. I don't know why people don't understand that, because I'm thinking an awful lot of people have had at least one experience where they were drunk off their butts and anything could have happened. And if they woke up and they were in their bed, or they woke up alive on the side of the road, they should count their lucky stars. That's all I could say. All right, so that's the Kiely thing. I want to go to this one. I hate to say this made me almost laugh, but it did. That's not good. I shouldn't say that, but it did. It made me laugh, but in a very sad way. I'm going to say this in a sad way. This young man, and we have a problem in Washington, D.C., where I live, and in Baltimore, which is to the north, which is even worse. We have a problem of a lot of shootings. Okay, a lot of young people with guns. All right, they're on their Facebook pages posing with their guns. They're rapping about guns, and there are a lot of guns just floating around. Some of them are ghost guns. Some of them are stolen guns. Some of them, they're just everywhere. Okay, so this young man, let me find this here. Where'd he go? Hold on a second. Where did he go? Okay. I'm going to say I had to laugh in the middle of this just because this report is actually the original story I read. I think they got rid of it because of the reason I thought it was sadly amusing. It's heartbreaking. Father and son. This is his dad. This is him. They were killed nearly a year apart in Northeast DC. A 15-year-old boy was shot and killed in Northeast DC on Thursday in what police are calling a targeted shooting. All right. He's the second family member to be killed within a year. Andre Robinson died after being shot while sitting on a porch near Kelly Miller Middle and Alton elementary schools after 3:30 p.m. Thursday afternoon, broad daylight. This is how bold some of these killers are. Broad daylight. So he was shot. There was a metallic colored, kind of a gold sedan that drove up. 3 suspects got out and they shot the teen multiple times. There were other people on the porch, but they just shot him. So obviously it's targeted. And he was pronounced dead later that day. Family says, as they usually do, he's not involved in anything. He's a good student, not involved in anything that we know of. And you have to wonder about that because he was targeted by 3 people and shot him. And then the car was found in Maryland, burned up. That usually says gangs or drugs. And usually they don't target you unless you're involved in gangs or drugs. I'm waiting to see the outcome of this because it's really sad, a 15-year-old boy. But Dad, now this is what made me kind of laugh though. This is sad, but it was funny. So they said, sorry, so they said, talking about gun violence in the city, and his dad also died just a year ago, just down the street, a few blocks away, of gun violence as well. You know what gun violence it was? Dad's cousin beat him to death with a gun. He didn't shoot him. He beat him to death with a gun. I wouldn't call that gun violence. That's called blunt force trauma. But they grouped that in, and I'm like, really? The gun just made me laugh. But the sad part is, first of all, the family member killed his father. So again, we're not talking of this in that case. It wasn't like Dad was, also hanging out on a porch and chatting with the church ladies, and somebody came along and was shooting, at somebody else, and he got killed by, the crossfire. That we do have a problem with. A lot of innocent people in the city get killed in crossfire. I'm thinking if your cousin beat you to death with a gun, it's not accidental. You're not innocent victim. I'm going to say something happening between you and cousin. And now your son is dead a year later by 3 guys getting out of a gold sedan. I'm waiting to see what kind of issues we have here with involvement with drugs, because we are overrun in Washington, D.C. with drugs and drug gangs. And it's not as bad as Baltimore yet, but it's not good either. And it's sad because the neighborhoods want some kind of help to stop this. They want some kind of help to keep their children from getting involved in this. But if it's all around and you've got families who are not strong families, who got fathers in prison, some of them, a lot of single moms trying to raise kids, trying to do their best job. And with the churches, I have to say this, one of the strong features that used to be really helpful in the community were strong churches where everybody went to church, and you had the brothers of the church, the elders of the church, kind of step in and be fatherly. But a lot of this churches are their numbers are going down, and so they're not having the impact in the community that they used to have. They tend to have political impact, but not so much family impact. And I think that's kind of sad, because I think that was kind of really good for the community to have that. But the drugs and gangs have really gotten out of hand, and it's a shame, absolute shame. Let me check in on your comments. What is this? Wait a minute. Hi, Carrie. This is Martin. At the moment, I'm eating custard creams and drinking oat milk. Really? I think I might last an hour, but then I'll drift off. Well, I guess you're eating the appropriate things before Betty Bot. That's pretty funny. Okay. All right. Speaking of, since you're here, Martin, if you haven't fallen asleep, I'm going to go to a British crime. I'm going to go to the Lucy Letby trial, because this is quite fascinating. Lucy, where is that woman? Oh, where is she? Oh, here she. No, that's not her. Oh, here she is. All right, there's Lucy. You look on the left, you look at Lucy, and she looks like a nice young woman in her 20s, fresh-faced and all that. She's, if you see her little thing on, she's on her little badge, she works in the neonatal unit with the little babies. Isn't that sweet? Well, it's sweet until she murdered 7 of those little babies. And it's horrifying. And this is a note on the right side, which basically she says, I can't breathe. I can't focus every day. Somewhere along the way, she's got hate in here. I'm evil. I killed them. Let's see. I'm looking down further now. It's hard to read all her very, very, very kind of concerning writing. Let's see. Let me see if I can go to the top and try to read this. There are no words. I'm an awful person. Well, all right, we'll go with that. I can't breathe. I have lost, I think she's saying I lose focus every day. Overwhelming fear, something about killing herself. And then you have my hope, children. I haven't done anything wrong. Oh, okay, except killed 7 children. All right. It's getting too much, everything, hate myself, taking over. I feel very alone and scared. Well, yeah, because you're going to prison for the rest of your life. What this has, panic, fear, lost. Why me? She's very, very narcissistic here. I don't desire to live. I wish you had taken care of yourself before you killed off the children. I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough for something. Mom and dad would be better off without me. I did this. Okay. Well, she sure did. She done did that. Okay. So this trial of Lucy Letby. I am evil. I did this. Read the confession note written by the nurse accused of murdering 7 babies. So she's in trial right now. And so this is a pretty, let's call this a pretty good piece of evidence. Okay. Although her defense attorney says it isn't, because that's what defense attorneys are used for, making up bull. Okay. She's a neonatal nurse. And it's always hard for us to understand how a person who goes into the nursing profession would kill, because you think that nurses, of all people, would want to help people who are in pain. They want to help them. But interestingly enough, when we talk about serial killers, especially women, let me go over one weird one. Anesthesiologists murderers tend to be male, but they just like to knock them off during surgery. And then we've got females, neonatal nurse, women working in nursing homes, usually on the midnight shift because nobody's around to see them killing, and women doing daycare. These are where the women like to kill off people, usually little babies or old people, because both of those groups don't fight back, and both of those groups are harder to diagnose why they died. And a lot of times you don't even bother, like, especially with elderly people. You got a 90-year-old in the nursing home, and they got Alzheimer's, and, pillow happens to fall on their face. for a little bit long. On you hit the button. Oh my God, she's not breathing. They don't suspect murder until like they start looking back at their records and they're like, how come we keep losing people on the midnight shift when Mary's here? Then they start questioning. But a lot of times what they'll do when they get suspicious in some nursing homes, they'll just let the person go. And then they'll go to another nursing home and they'll start the whole process over again. And sometimes they're not caught for 3 or 4 nursing homes because nobody wants to report it because it makes them look bad. And they don't want the police attention and the media attention. So they are complicit a lot of times in allowing serial killers to continue. But a lot of it also is that they have this hard time wrapping their head around female serial killers. This is their thing. They don't get their thrills jumping out on a bike trail and hitting somebody over the head and raping them and then choking them to death. That's a dude thing, okay? Women kill off people that are easy to kill off in their work environment usually, and in their home. Women serial killers often kill their own babies. That's their other place where they do that. They get their thrills, their power and control the same way as men do in serial homicide. They just enjoy. They just do it a different way. That's all. So let's look more at this. On day 4 of Lucy Letby's trial at Manchester Crown Court, the prosecutor, Nick Johnson, KC, told jurors about a series of notes the police had found. No, not just one. One green post-it note, which was shown to the court, she had written, "I don't deserve to live. I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them." What? You don't do your job really good. So instead of just quitting, you just kill them. Okay. She also wrote, "I'm a horrible, evil person, and I am evil. I did this." Okay. I want to point out 2 things. The woman is not psychotic. This is not schizophrenia. If you look back at this note, although the note is very loud, shall we say, I don't see schizophrenia there at all. I see clear thinking. It's not word salad. I think she's angry. I think she's getting her emotions out. But I do not see this as somebody who is not in control of what they're doing. And I want to talk to you about a thing called evil. What a psycho. Yeah, well, psychopath. She is a psychopath. That is absolutely true. Oh, and Martin's awake. Hi, Martin. Full attention. All right. Nurse Ratchet. Well, she was just mean, I think. Another killer nurse. There's a lot of them. There are a lot of them. What's that? Same with arsonist firefighters here that just got transferred. Oh, that's interesting. Yes, there are those firebugs. They love arson, so they join the fire department and they set the fire so then they can go put them out. And they get the cheap thrill out of not only getting the fire, to have the cool part of the fire, but then you get to rush to put it out. And can you imagine just sitting there thinking, this is so cool. I did it. Okay, guys, let's take care of this. Let me talk about evil in context of this. What is, I'm not going to get into a philosophical context, but I just want to point out that this point, some people, not all people, some people like being evil. So when she writes, "I am evil," it isn't so much a sense of shame. It's a sense of pride. And you might wonder, what the heck? She's actually saying that in a proudful way? Yeah, because here's the thing. We all want to be somebody in life. We want to be recognized. We want to be important. And in reality, a good portion of us aren't going to be important in a huge sense of the word. We're not going to be actors or actresses. We're not going to be the president of the country or the king or the queen. We're not going to get to do those kind of things. And if you have a community in which you participate and have a good feeling about, then you can be somebody there. And that's good. You can feel good about being somebody. And if you have a family where you're somebody, that's important too. I think one of the disasters we've had in recent years is that with so much media, so much of the YouTube and TikTok and all this kind of stuff, and Twitter, people feel they don't have just that small community. So when you're in a smaller community, you know who you are within that ring of people. But when you now enter such a large world where you open your Facebook page up to 2,000 people, you're on Twitter and you're just overwhelmed with a huge amount of people. Who are you? Are you important in that world? And a lot of people feel they're just not important. And most people deal with it just like, we just go eat more food, drink more, do that, or try to do things that make you more important in a healthy way. Maybe volunteerism, maybe by finishing up something, learning to do craft work, art or something. Not that you're going to become a great artist or a great pianist or any of these things, but just that you can be proud of what you accomplished and the people around you can appreciate what you do, that kind of thing. But there's a hole in some people and they don't ever feel like they're enough. They're not getting enough attention. They're not important enough. So she says, I don't care. I don't take care of the babies well enough. Really? Or people just not praise your butt enough. What's people just not excited about you? I mean, I think she's a perfectly attractive woman. I mean, she's not, I'm looking at her, I'm thinking she's attractive. I don't see anything unpleasing about her. I don't know. She wasn't in her work clothes and she put on really pretty dress and she put on more makeup and whatever. She could be quite lovely. I mean, she's lovely here without all of that. But, I'm just saying she's not unpleasing. So, and she's achieved being a neonatal nurse. So she hasn't lacked getting somewhere and she's earning a living and she's getting to take care of little babies. And as long as she's not killing them, she is doing perfectly fine. But I don't think she got enough praise. That is sometimes why people kill off babies and older people, because the job becomes a job and people aren't like constantly bowing down and saying you're the best thing ever. Oh my God, you're just fantastic. That kind of thing. But if you kill them, at least you can have the exciting thought of, well, you didn't praise me enough. How'd that turn out for you? Your baby's dead now because I killed him. I'm evil. I'm evil. I am the face of evil. They love it. So some people love being evil because that gives them an importance. Bonnie and Clyde love being evil. They didn't care if they died at the end. They liked it. Parkland, he was evil. Why? Because it made him somebody, which he didn't think he was much of anybody before that. But now he just feels like he's the top of evil. And I'm going to talk about the verdict in a little bit. So I just wanted to point out the evil thing because I think people don't understand that people actually like being evil. Some people actually like it. Molly says, Dr. Hussel in Ohio was an anesthesiologist, gave many patients huge fatal amounts of fentanyl and got off. He was the only critical care doctor in the hospital who used fentanyl. Others used morphine. Yeah, it's odd that the serial killers for males in hospitals are usually anesthesiologists. It's weird thing. I don't deserve to live sounds like the laundry boy. I don't want to face my punishment. More like, oh, there you go. And also, Laundry probably knew he was really going down. So he killed himself. But a lot of times, if they know they got a defense coming up, they want people on their side. So if they can be humble and admit to their, I'm a terrible person, I shouldn't have done these things, somehow they're going to get some kind of sympathy, which if you look at a defense thing, okay. So she's accused of murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 10 others at the Countess of Chester Hospital. She denies all charges, even though she said she did it. Okay. Her defense barrister said she was adamant she had not harmed any children and said the note was written. This is so defense attorney crap. I want to make me punch him in the face. Anguished woman in despair who was realizing the enormity of what was facing her. It's said that the note was written when she was facing disciplinary proceedings at work. So, it's not about killing all those babies. It's something else, And a line of the note, which was shown to the court, said Letby had an overwhelming fear. I'll never have children or marry. I will never know what it's like to have a family. Despair. Well, she knows she's going down at this point. That's why she's despairing. And I'm going to pretty much guarantee you, she had that family, she would have knocked off her own children. He blamed, this is the defense attorney, inadequate standards of care at Countess of Chester Hospital, and said that at least one of the deaths was an inevitable outcome given the child's prematurity. There were how many deaths? 7. Oh, one was the kid would have died anyway. Wow, that's nice. So I just helped it get there sooner. What about the other 6 and the 10 attempted? Okay. So in the case of child J, who was born with a perforated and necrotic bowel, he said that the hospital was well out of its depth when it came to treating the infant. He concluded his statement by saying, this is the opening statement, "This whole case is a complex case, and it's not straightforward. And in that doc is a young woman who says this is not her fault." Now, one of the things you want to throw at a jury is to say it's complex, because he's basically saying to the jury, you can't really understand this. You can't figure it out because it's too complex. So since you can't figure it out, reasonable doubt, must acquit. That's a defense ploy with a civilian jury system. So anyway, child P was one of 2 triplets the prosecution claims were killed by Letby. So there were 3 of them. Their brother survived because he was in another room that she wasn't in. Oh my gosh. Anyway, also Letby falsified medical records to give herself an alibi at the time child Q's sudden collapse. So apart from 3 days the following week, this was the last time she was allowed to work there. Doctors grew suspicious about the cold-blooded Letby. Cold-blooded Letby, this is who's Sky News, okay, tried to kill one resilient girl 4 times before succeeding. Oh, poor little thing. The nurse was also questioned by police about why she had sent a sympathy card to the baby's parents. Then they grew suspicious of her in 2016, moving her off night shifts. Remember, night shifts, they're great times because the night shifts essentially is just not a lot of employees working because they're not doing a lot of testing and a lot of shifting the babies back and forth. Same thing with nursing homes. Just the elderly people are supposed to be asleep. So the midnight shift, that's the action time for serial killers. Because they had concerns about the correlation between her presence and unexpected deaths and life-threatening episodes. That's when they start going, check. How come she's always there? One consultant began to feel uncomfortable when he realized Letby was alone with a child. When he walked into the room, he noted that the infant's breathing tube was dislodged. We allege she was trying to kill child K when the pediatric consultant walked in on her. Yeah, so that's your female serial killer. That's the way they operate. So she is 100% a serial killer, just to let you know that. Michaela says, "I'm a preemie baby. Thank God my doctor wasn't the defense attorney." Oh, my goodness. I tell my son I saved his life every day by not giving in to the urge to strangle him. Okay, I have to laugh at that just because this is why there is such a need for a parent to have 2 things. And I stress these all the time. One is a love for the child. Because without that, I used to joke that, if I hadn't loved my infant daughter as much as I did, because she was a nonstop crier and nonstop nurser, and I would have picked her up by her little feet and whacked her into a door frame. I remember thinking that, of course I didn't do it. But one of the reasons I didn't do it, besides being a decent human being, was that I lived in quite a ghetto in California, and all the women there were on welfare, which meant that they were all available during the day. So we used to leave our doors open to our apartments. And I had my best friend down the way, and she had 2 kids, and she would just wander into my apartment, even when I was asleep, just nursing the baby or whatever, and help me out, just being there, giving me company. Then we could walk down to the store, we could walk to the park, we could walk down to the beach. I had company, and I think a lot of women or men who are left alone with children, if they love them enough, that may be this thing that keeps that child alive. But if there's any issues and that person is left alone without humans around them, that can be very dangerous for a child when they won't shut up, they won't stop crying, they won't stop screaming. It's very difficult. And in many societies, the concept is that there is you always have other people around you. When a woman has a baby, the aunts come in and, they come and stay with her so that during those early times, she has so much help. But we have a lot of women who are left alone in their apartments while their significant other goes off to work, and they're left there all day long by themselves with nobody around. And that's insane. In my opinion, it's unhealthy. And that's why so many people have postpartum depression. It's not chemicals. It's the fact that you're stuck with a baby, and nobody's helping you. It's depressing, so yeah, it's very frustrating. Let's see what has said. Dr. Hussle was on night shift, and his attorney, was that Jose Baez? Oh my God, Jose Baez. I think that guy's a psychopath. Don't sue me for that, Jose. I'm just saying you seem like it, because you don't seem to have any kind of morals or ethics or remorse for getting killers put back on the street. And you just say, I'm a great attorney. Okay. Anyway, Dr. Hussle was on night shift, and his attorney, Jose Baez, blamed the hospital for no dosing policy on fentanyl. Thought you went to med school for that. Oh, Jose Baez. I have to say, if I were a criminal, I'd want him for my attorney. I would. I really don't. Oh, no, Molly. Don't start Pat on Jose Baez. I'm going to move on right about now. Okay, let me move on. I want to point out the serial killer in California has been arrested. This is the Stockton serial killer. He's the guy that was. Let me show you a picture of him. He was rolling around. It was interesting. He's basically killing homeless people, and there he is rolling around. And it's interesting because a lot of claims about this kind of thing is that, he's like cleaning up the city, or he's like, mission type thing, getting rid of homeless people because they, messing up the streets. Serial killers don't care about that stuff. They may use it as an excuse, but they don't care about that stuff. I think he killed them because they were easy to kill. They were just available. They're laying around in the dark. I mean, and they don't move. It's fish in a barrel, you know what I mean? It really is. Some people think it might be a hate crime issue because most are Hispanic. This is the guy they arrested. His name is, and I was right about basically who I thought this guy was. But interesting enough, let me get them. Okay, suspected serial killer arrested. He was caught with a gun while out hunting. So the police actually, let me read you what happened here. He was arrested in Stockton in connection to a series of killings in the city and one in Oakland, announced on Saturday. He would face charges for murders of six men who were linked through ballistics. So the ballistics matched the killer. The guy used the same gun on all six people. His name is Wesley Brownlee, 43. I did not have him quite that old. I would have thought he did look younger to me. I believed he was African-American, mostly because of the location and also the way he walked. Had kind of a cultural thing there. He looked younger to me, just from the movement of him. He's 43, so I don't know, maybe it's just Peter Pan. He hadn't grown up, This is one reason when you profile, you don't want to say absolutely on something when you don't know. I don't have any evidence of what age he was. I just felt from the way he moved, he seemed fairly young. But I was surprised to find out he was 43. He was arrested overnight while out hunting. All right. And they hunting with quotes on it. Let's see. He was caught around 2 a.m. He was wearing dark clothing with a mask around his neck. Now, the problem with a mask now is that so many people wear them who aren't like criminals. Because remember the day if anybody had a mask on, like stores would say, you can't enter with a mask because that was going to be somebody who's going to rob your store. And now everybody enters a store with a mask, right? And there's a lot of people who still wear masks because they are still concerned about COVID. There's a bunch of people who still wear masks because it's very useful to cover up who you are. Well, so this guy was caught walking around in dark clothing, which was described by the victims. And you see in the picture, he's in all black. But then again, a lot of people wear all black, and he's got a mask, which again, a lot of people wearing masks. So that in itself doesn't necessarily mean he's a serial killer. But he was armed with a firearm in his waistband. Okay, you shouldn't probably be rolling around the city with a gun stuck in your waistband. that gets a little questionable. Okay, so he confirmed that he is the sole suspect at this time and is believed to be the person of interest captured on video from the shooting scenes. I'm going to read you some interesting thing in just a sec where some people think they don't have the right guy. They're claiming that this isn't the guy. They said that he has lived in Stockton on and off while also living in other cities. He has a criminal record, mostly drugs and other sort of stuff. According to public records, Brownlee has a criminal history in California and Arizona connected to past drug violations, traffic violations, and DUI. Not huge stuff. All right, so they said, but there is another issue here. Where's the ghost? They claim that the gun, I think, ballistically matches, supposedly matches the ballistics of the men who were killed. However, here we have the Stockton residents are skeptical. Okay, let's see why they're skeptical. They say they're skeptical of the suspected serial killer identity, want more evidence. All right. They have questioned the police whether they truly have the right man in custody regarding these shootings. Now, some people say, well, they haven't been any shootings since they arrested him. That doesn't prove anything because, if I were the killer and they just arrested somebody, I'm like, let's see how this plays out. I'm just going to wait it out, They also said, let's see, people thought that there's just so many killers out there, it might not be the right one. That's an interesting point. Somebody else thought he was too calm, so they thought he was guilty. Like when they arrested him, he's like, so they thought if he were not the guy, he'd be freaking out. Now here, this person said ballistic evidence which matched barrel rifling. So if that's true, they got the guy. There's no question. Same rounds used to kill the victims were in the firearm located on the suspect. I would say that's pretty good. What more does the community want in regards to evidence? They caught the serial killer. So be happy. Some people thought he was too old and too tall, too big. They thought the guy looked smaller. And he does I don't know, when you're looking at cameras, angles that they're at, they can make somebody look slimmer, taller, shorter. It all depends because of the angles of the camera. But I would say if the ballistics match, it's kind of a done deal. You can assume that the rest of it's just, one of those things that, it's hard to tell exacts when you're looking at a video. But I'm glad they caught him, thank God, because he was obviously very busy. And he didn't. It's like a really easy serial killing. And we see that this is not the first time homeless people have been targeted by serial killers who don't want to have to do a lot of work. And not all serial killers are into rape and that kind of thing, hands-on. They just like popping people, you know what I mean? And it's like Son of Sam, David Berkowitz. He never wanted to rape anybody, as he told that woman. I don't want to rape you, I just want to kill you. What's the problem? He liked shooting him from a distance. And by the way, I got this really neat. I might be doing something with this fellow, but anyway, he did a whole thing. There was a Netflix series called Son of Sam. Let me see if I can find this. And apparently, what happened was I did my show. I'll show you a link up below. The Son of Sam show that I did, and I said this guy named Murray. Hold on, let me see if I can find this. He did this whole Netflix. Was it Son of Sam or was it Sons of Sam? Was it this cult that was out killing these people? And it wasn't David Berkowitz alone. And it's a big cult. And I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I ever heard. Let's see, hold on. Son of Sam. And so I went public with it, in my video. I said, no, absolutely not. This guy was, hold on a second, let me find here. It was David Berkowitz, for Christ's sake. It wasn't any cult. Well, anyway, I found this quite interesting. This was Maury Terry was the guy that wrote this book and claimed it was a cult and blah, blah, blah. And I thought the guy was just a grifter, total grifter, and sometimes people, I won't say a total grifter. Sometimes people get involved in some idea and they convince themselves that these things are true. And it's just a bunch of nonsense. So anyway, one of the one of the people wrote here, Maury Terry was, these are some new comments that came in on my video. Maury Terry was a delusional. Manny's the guy that, let me see if I can find it here. He just did a whole thing on it. Okay, let me find this. Manny Grossman. I haven't contacted you, Manny, yet. I'm going to. He says here, let's see. Well, here we go. Oh, hi, Pat. My name is Manny Grossman. I have conducted a local investigation into the Son of Sam crimes here in Yonkers for the past 1.5 years. I started out as a major Maury fan, but pretty quickly reached the same conclusions you did. The guy was a lying hack. I just think it's great. I just wanted to reach out to you, my YouTube page. If you want to do a show together, we can talk about it, about how he lied and everything else. Get me a ring back. And then this fellow, I thought was kind of cool. I'm not going to give his name right here. Well, okay, I can because he put it here. Okay, Paul Hart. He just put up this 5 days ago on my YouTube page. I deleted my pro Maury Terry post from last year. I don't know, Paul, what you said in that more, because a lot of people were so convinced by Maury Terry that, and I'm not saying it was you, Paul, but then they came on and said, Pat Brown, Maury Terry has done all this work. You're wrong about David Berkowitz. He didn't work alone. There was this cult. There was this. And they were very upset because Maury Terry had done all this work. So Paul Hart says, I deleted my pro Maury Terry post from last year. It's now obvious from the new evidence that Terry fabricated much of the so-called evidence. That's interesting. That's not just being a hack. That's being a liar. That Berkowitz acted alone. All the new evidence points to that. Pat Brown was right to cast doubt on the whole absurd cult series. Apparently, this is Manny Grossman says this. You've been vindicated, Pat. It's always nice, I mean, it's nice when something comes out that supports what you say, and when people have been saying you're wrong. We all should have listened to you last year. Okay. The Queen's DA investigation, and this is why I haven't talked to you yet, Manny, because I haven't seen all this stuff. You sent stuff over to me, and I just haven't had time. The Queen's DA investigation into Maury's claims are now public, and thousands of documents show how Maury lied, manipulated, bullied, and abused all of us, former fans of his. Quite simply, Maury Terry was a lying hack who fooled many of us. His work is totally discredited now by any serious Son of Sam researcher. You were right, though. It took me a while to reach the same conclusions. I started my video series as a major Maury fan. Wow, that's fascinating. And it's amazing how convincing people can be. And one of the things I always say is you got to look at the exact evidence. And when you start developing these theories based on things that are not actually facts, or they're ideas, and you start connecting dots that don't need to be connected, that's where you got these conspiracy theories that come up, where they're not based on facts. And then people get so emotional and so involved and so excited because it's a new rabbit hole. If you just say Son of Sam was just a one, what I think, what did this person said? David is wait a minute. Berkowitz is basically a punk prototype incel. David Berkowitz was a punk prototype incel. Great description. He was one of those early incels. Couldn't get any, was a weirdo, hung out in his home, and then he just developed this desire to have this little serial killer life of his. He's just this kind of book nobody who scared the crap out of the community for a long time because he was at least successful with a gun. But that's so basic. Once you get to that point, it's basic. But the rabbit hole with all these people involved is something you can sell a book on, and you can just go berserk, bringing in people, thousands of people just going, just clinging onto your every word because oh my God, you're so fascinating. Oh my God, you found this out too. Who's connected with that? I think you're brilliant. Blah, 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 blah. And that Pat Brown, she just did one video and she's just poo-pooed you, and she's nobody. She didn't say anything worthwhile because it's not as interesting. And so that's how people go down the rabbit holes. And live in them for a really long time. But I'm really glad. This is cool coming from Paul, from Maury, from Manny Grossman. I haven't looked at the DA's big, huge dump of information, but I'll be really curious because Maury Terry, if he not only just dug himself his own rabbit hole, if he lied about things, then he's a disgrace and should be drummed out because he considered himself a journalist and not so much. So I think that was kind of fascinating. Let's see. People are watching some interesting things out there in the world. Okay, so I wasn't even planning to talk about that, but I forgot. I just got that information in, which I thought was kind of interesting. Back to what I was actually going to talk about. Oh, I wanted to talk about, who do I have here? This one was kind of, maybe I should just mention him if Martin's still awake. So we have good old fella back again for another appeal. This is good old Jeremy Bamber. I did a show on Jeremy Bamber and whether he was guilty or not of the White House murders. And the lawyers are back again because this guy, he's been in prison for 35 years. I don't even know the number of appeals this guy has had. Appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal. So now the lawyers acting for notorious killer Jeremy Bamber have sent, and I always love this, it's always dramatic new evidence. Dramatic, not just some evidence, dramatic new evidence for a review in a bid to overturn his conviction. So he killed his entire family, and I can say that because he was convicted of it. He killed his entire family, and the evidence does support that. Among the victims were his adoptive parents, June and Neville, his sister, Sheila Caffel, and his 6-year-old twin sons, Daniel and Nicholas. All right. Bamber has always protested his innocence. Well, bully for you. Insisting it was his schizophrenic sister, Sheila, who shot and murdered the family before turning the gun on herself. And you have to watch my show for that one. I'll link it. I'll link it below. So anyway, they got 10 new pieces of evidence. 10. After 35 years. Every year they have new evidence, by the way. I don't know where they keep coming up with the new evidence. If, it's been 35 years of appeals. Okay. They say the Sky News has turned into, it's like getting to be a bad tabloid like the Sun. They say that evidence raises questions over a gruesome key detail highlighted by the judge at Bamber's trial. According to the claims, at least I said claims, burns on the father's back were not caused by the hot part of a rifle, as the jury was told in 1986, but by a hot kitchen AGA cooker. Bamber's legal team says this evidence was key in securing his conviction. I don't think it was one of the many keys. It was a big key ring. There were like 20 keys. We're going to ignore the other 19. All right. The lawyers claim that the Essex police tampered with the crime scene before the pictures were taken, which you always have to complain to the police. That's that. Then it gives you that reasonable doubt. All right. So this latest development comes more than a decade after CCRC refused another appeal by Bamber. Okay. So it's been a while. But they have now received his application. A review is ongoing. Let's see. What's he whining about here? Oh, yeah. That's basically the whining thing. But he's back again. He never goes away, Bamber. All he needs is a good politician, and like Anna Syed here in Baltimore, with Marilyn Mosby wanting to make her political, big. She needed a big political hit in order to because she's being indicted. So all of a sudden she just says, oh, he's innocent, let him go. So he just needs somebody like her, Marilyn Mosby, to get him out of things, but I don't know that's going to happen. Okay, I want to mention this lady just because I was thinking of Sherry Papini when I read this one, because I really wasn't familiar with this case at all. But this is an interesting one. She faked her own kidnapping, and I don't remember this one, and it's pretty bad. Although I don't think she came with, she didn't get away with it quite the way that Sherry Papini did. But I want to point out there are many of these people out there, Mom who faked her own kidnapping and went to Disney World. That's where she went when she was kidnapped, is now facing fraud charges. And this is important because what I point out is that Munchausen, when a person exhibits Munchausen syndrome, where they're trying to get attention to themselves, or Munchausen syndrome by proxy when they're doing things to children to get attention. Usually they're psychopaths, and they are liars, and they're cheats, and they're manipulators. So that fraud is a very common thing for these kind of people to be involved in. Bonnie Sweeten sparked national outrage 13 years ago. I didn't know of her about her, so I don't know how national it was. I never heard of it. By claiming she had been kidnapped when she had gone to Disney World. Not because she'd gone to Disney World, but she actually gone to Disney World during the time she said she was kidnapped. She is now facing charges for allegedly stealing money from her employer. Don't hire her. Sorry, but if you have money, here's what I always find funny. If you want to hire somebody who is a criminal, a convicted criminal, at least put them in a situation where you don't expose whatever they're really good at doing. Don't let them get away with that kind of thing. Have her do something where she can't cause you trouble. And I have another case right after this, which I really feel sorry for the people for hiring this criminal. But this one is a former Bucks County woman who sparked national outrage 13 years ago by claiming she'd been kidnapped, was actually gone to Walt Disney World, and she's back in trouble with the law. She is once called a master con woman. See, it's a con. She's a con artist. So is Sherry Papini, by a federal judge she's been charged in a connection with a scheme to steal from an employer who was trying to give her a second chance. So nice of you to do that, but why does she have access to anything financial? I don't understand that. Sweeten, 51, recently of Burlington County, was charged by information, which means she may have agreed to a plea deal. Okay. With 2 counts of wire fraud related to allegedly stealing from a Dolestown-based excavating company. I wonder what she was. Oh, hold on a second. Don't you do that to me. Hold on a second. The Philadelphia Inquirer. I'm not interested. The little screen thing came up here and blocked me out. Okay. This is interesting. Okay. So how did she get nailed with a wire fraud? And she would be, okay. If convicted, she faces a minimum of 40 years in prison. According to Romero, Sweeten was hired as a bookkeeper. Well, I don't know about you, but when you're playing with numbers and money and you're a crook and a con artist, that's probably not what you should be doing for somebody. Nobody should let her do that. And she issued, oh, look at this one. The president of the company had known her for many years. You just don't learn, dude, do you? Anyway, she allegedly issued dozens of unauthorized company checks to herself, stole checks that had been mailed to the company, which she then fraudulently endorsed over to herself, and used a company credit card to make tens of thousands of dollars of personal purchases. Now, let's go back to the kidnapping hoax case, which is 2009. This is 2017 that she got nailed for the fraud thing. 2009 for the kidnapping one. Sweeten called 911 and claimed to have been carjacked along with her 9-year-old daughter. Sweeten, who is white, said that 2 black men had rear-ended her SUV in Lower Bucks County and abducted the girl and her. Sweeten told the dispatcher she was calling from the trunk of the kidnapper's Cadillac, triggering a massive police dragnet. Sweeten and her daughter showed up the next day at a luxury resort in Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. She had used the driver's license of a former coworker to purchase plane tickets from Philadelphia the day she fled. Now here's what she gets. This is why I'm upset about Sherry Papini too. For the hoax, she was sentenced to at least 9 months in a county prison, county jail. 9 months. 9 months. She claimed she was kidnapped. She, like Papini, she claimed somebody of a different race did this because she thought that would get, make it believable. And on top of that, what's really sad is, of course, it's an insult to the community, because now she's saying that black men from this community are kidnappers, just like Papini said Hispanic women are kidnappers. It's almost like, I believe that's a hate crime. I think it should be put down as a hate crime. She took up police, she terrified the community. She took up police resources, and all she gets is 9 freaking months. To me, 10 years. I have zero sympathy for that garbage. 10 years. Because she's a psychopathic con artist. Why we just really a little slap on the wrist? Now, interesting enough, Then in 2012, she was sentenced to 100 months in federal prison for a series of deceptions starting in 2004 to steal more than $1 million while working as a paralegal in Bucks County. Wait a minute, was this before the other guy the other guy hired her? Wait a minute. She stole money from, she's been in prison a lot. Why would you hire this woman to do anything with money? You're an idiot. I'm sorry. The guy who hired her the last time, you're an idiot. Absolute idiot. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. But I think it's really sad that they didn't get her early on. So hi, Cheryl. Cheryl rolled in here from, well, Cheryl, every other week I do my UK Europe hangout, which is always 3 to 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern time here. So it's always 9 or wait a minute. So it's only 8 or 9 o'clock in the UK and in Denmark. So I do that every other week just so you don't have to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how you didn't get your notification. That's weird. I put out 2 notifications for every show. Anyway, so I just think this is another Sherry Papini. She only pulled it off for a day because she was like running around Disney World. And Sherry Papini dragged it on much longer and got all of 18 months. Oh, how sweet. But both these women are psychopathic human beings who are con artists, and they will continue conning you. Stop being so nice to them. Oh, she has some emotional problems. No, she's like, if a guy did this, he'd probably get 10 years. Woman does it, she gets, and I think, remember the runaway bride? She got a teddy bear from the police, the chief. Unbelievable. I don't even know if she got any time. I can't remember what happened in that case of the runaway bride. But she didn't get much. So again, it's amazing how many of these things happen over and over again, and we don't understand that you should charge them with what they deserve to be charged. I'm going to talk about one more case, and then I want to talk about Parkland, as I think I just want to talk about Parkland and the issue of the death penalty and how he didn't get it. But I do want to mention this horrifying case before I go there, because it's just, this is like one of the worst cases ever. It's just so incredibly sad. These guys, this is, hold on a second. Let me find it here. 2 brothers, where are these? 2 brothers got arrested for this one. Where'd it go? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I've got to pull it back up again because for some reason it vanished, as it once in a while happens. Let's see. There. Okay. They were a family of 4 that got abducted and murdered, and it's a family of 4. 2 brothers arrested. Pulling this out. Should pull it up. All right, California family. Oh, here we go. All right. 2 brothers were arrested in connection with the kidnapping and killing of California family members. So what happened was, I'm hoping it describes how this went down. This is the 4 family members are little girl, Aruhi Deri. She's 8 months old. Her parents, Jocelyn Kaur, that's the woman, and Jasdeep Singh, that's her husband, and the child's uncle, Amandeep Singh. They were kidnapped from the family's trucking business in Central California of city of Merced on Monday. The bodies of all 4 were recovered in an orchard. Just absolutely appalling. Now, who is this piece of garbage? This is the main piece of garbage that killed them and brought his brother along with him. Why did this happen? His name is Jesus Salgado, 48 years old, used to work for the victim's business. Then there were no details. Okay, so anyway, he kidnapped them, and it was a dispute because he was like from a year ago, they had hired him, and then they fired him, and he was one of those guys didn't like being fired, so he had sent messages and stuff that he was angry about what had happened. And let me warn you guys, because I've had people call me a threat assessment type thing. It's like, Pat, Ms. Brown, what do you think I should do? We hired this guy and we want to fire him, but we're scared because we're scared that he's going to do something to us if we fire him. and we want a threat assessment. Threat assessments are really risky things to do because it's really hard to predict actually whether the person is going to come back and get you. Come back in and shoot up the whole place because they're angry. Depends how psychopathic they are, obviously. But once you hire somebody and then you have to get rid of them because usually they're problematic, and especially when you're scared of them because they're acting out in the company in a way that you aren't comfortable with because of their psychopathic personality. Once you get rid of them and tell them they have to leave, they can get very vindictive, extremely vindictive. And then what happens is now this guy had shown that he was vindictive toward the family. I don't know what precautions they took, but apparently not enough. Because, do you arm yourself to the teeth? Do you get bodyguards? What do you do when you think this guy might come and get you? Or do you think you're overreacting? Even if the guy said being are you just overreacting? Well, but here's a little key, talking about who you hire. Jesus Salgado served a lengthy prison sentence for a similar crime back in 2007. He was sentenced to 11 years behind bars for charges including first-degree robbery with use of a firearm and attempted false imprisonment. And then he was also possession of controlled substance. He was released on parole in 2015 after finishing his sentence and completing parole in 2018. And then they hired him. A similar kind of situation. He's a violent felon, and they hired him. I don't know why they hired him. I don't know if they didn't know his background, if they didn't do a good background check. I don't know what happened, but it's so sad because once you let them in, it's sometimes you're in real trouble trying to get rid of them. Thankfully they've got him. Of course, he'll spend the rest of his life in prison, or I don't know. And it's just really sickening. It really is. Just so bothers me because a lovely family, and even killed the little baby. Sick son of a gun. Yeah. All right. So that just really, really bugged me. Really, really sad one. Wanted to give him a second chance. Yeah. This is a problem when people come out of prison. They all want to have a second chance, but the problem is depending on what you've done, what kind of second chance should you give somebody? What kind of risk should you put your family up against? It all depends what they were in for. If they were in for something fairly minor, it's not a big deal. But if they're in for bigger things, it's really sad. I mean, because they were probably really nice people. Maybe they did just want to give them a second chance, and they were just okay. You want a job. But he hadn't been out of prison that long, and he'd been in there for a very violent offense. Personally, I wouldn't have had him anywhere near my family. That's just the way I think. But maybe they didn't know. I don't know what the system is in California for checking employees. I know that at a certain point in time, it was really hard to find out because like right now, like in Maryland, I can run anybody's name in Maryland and right on the internet, and I can come up with exactly who they are and what they've done. But it used to be like I was doing an investigation in Virginia. I had to go to every single courthouse in Virginia to see if that guy had a record there. Do you know how many counties there are in Virginia? It's just ridiculous. I mean, and you can't get to them all because some of them are very far away at the other end of the state. And then what happens if you're in Virginia and the guy committed the crimes in Washington, D.C.? So unless you have a national register, which we still do not have, where you can check anybody out, you don't know. And then you can say, oh, well, I'll hire somebody. Okay, you can hire somebody. That costs a fortune. I think there are more services online now that you can pay money to get information. But things get real expensive. So let's say you're working, you have your company and you're hiring 50 different people. You don't have the money to put out to do all these real severe background checks. So sometimes you just don't realize what you just got, especially if they're, yeah. That was a extremely cute little baby. Ugh, just suck. I say I don't know what they did to give it a background check because, again, if you've got a lot of people you got to hire, a lot of times you don't do the background checks. I don't know how easy it is in California. And I don't know, maybe they're just not suspicious people. Some people are just not that way. And I mean, just super, super sad. Let me mention, by the way, that as I was asked about, what happened to him? Where'd he go? I don't have a picture of him. I thought I put a picture of him. Okay. I don't. I haven't actually looked back at the Kristen Smart case, but Paul Flores was found guilty of killing her, which I want to look back, do a little more thorough study of this, because it's a very circumstantial case, and it's so unusual that a circumstantial case people find the guy guilty, especially this many years later. So anyway, he was portrayed as a predator, Paul Flores, who, even after becoming the focus of the Smart investigation, drugged and raped women he lured to his Los Angeles home. So I have to see how much information they have on that. But anyway, the defense attorney said the jurors were told a bunch of conspiracy theories not backed up by facts. Prosecutors, he argued, as a defense attorney, and this is the Kristen Smart. She was 19 years old. She went to a party. She walked out with Flores. She was drinking, and he said he'd walk her back to her place, and then she vanished. He said there's no forensic evidence, including DNA or blood, to connect Flores to any crime. He said that it was all circumstantial evidence provided by residents and the true crime podcast, Your Own Backyard, that turned up potential witnesses and avenues of investigation. I'm going to have to check that out just to see, is it just one of these podcasts that just, puts a bunch of crap out there? And is he right about that? Or did it really do some usefulness? I don't know. But there was a lack of physical evidence. And they said, but there's a couple interesting things about this case. And I said, I may have to do a more thorough review of it to determine whether I think he was guilty or not. But what's interesting is he said he walked her back and he didn't watch her go in, you see. And so she vanished. Yeah. So, what a bum. If you're going to walk the girl home to her dorm, shouldn't you see her go into the dorm if she's been drinking? And she was supposedly fell out. She was hanging out with him, but then he supposedly fell on the ground. So, they wonder whether he roofied her or not. So anyway, he insisted he left her within sight of her dorm, but not actually going into the dorm. Okay, sure. So the defense attorney says he wasn't stalking the girl. He saw her fall down on the ground, and he was doing a good deed by getting her off the ground. Well, if he's doing that good a deed by getting her up off the ground, he should have done the good deed by seeing her into her dorm and not just driving away. So anyway, this is kind of funny. They said evidence showed that Flores took Smart to his room. 4 cadaver dogs would eventually key in on his room because of the smell of death on his mattress. Defense lawyers cast the cadaver dogs as junk science, not backed by any forensic evidence of Smart's presence in Flores' room. I don't know. I seem to remember another case, can't remember the name of it, where a couple of dogs hit behind a couch. And the defense claims, or the people claim, that it's just junk science. Does anybody remember that case? You know what I'm talking about? That case where those dogs were, don't believe the dogs, or go ask the dogs, If nobody's commenting, because of the Madeleine McCann case, because the dogs are a big part of that case, where they did, hit on the sofa in the vacation flat of the Madeleine McCann's parents, and they also hit on a bunch of items in their flat, and they hit on their car. So yeah. I was just joking around. But here we have again, they brought the dogs, and they're all over his mattress, and it's like junk science, but you kind of wonder why they were all so interested in his mattress. So the claim is that he took her back to his place and either raped her and killed her, or attempted to rape and kill her. A Joran van der Sloot type, in my opinion. So then he made. So what happened was, the weekend Smart went missing. Paul Flores and his daddy Ruben Flores they didn't know where they were, but Paul Flores called his daddy for 7 minutes the morning after the event, kind of like Joran van der Sloot called his daddy after the event. Daddies can really be helpful sometimes. He knew the one person who would help him with a dead girl on his bed was his father. It was his version of a 911 call. Yeah, kind of like that. So and supposedly the concept was that dad helped him bury Kristen Smart in the backyard of the house, and then later dug her up and moved her. And it's interesting because that same concept was true of Joran van der Sloot too, that his father helped him bury her someplace and later moved her. I mean, that's one of the theories. The father was not, Ruben Flores was not found guilty in the trial. He says, look, I'm 81 years old and I'm too old to be digging up things. So that's your story. But anyway, so Paul Flores got convicted. And I'm going to do a more thorough review of it because I can't remember the case because it was so long ago. And I don't know what they had on Paul Flores to make this a good circumstantial case that he actually got convicted with circumstantial evidence because they never found her body. So, and they've got no forensics. So this is very circumstantial. And, the defense did try to do a defense thing where, you try to interject that there could be another suspect out there. Like they said, well, Scott Peterson lived within a couple hundred miles of there. I'm like, Scott Peterson is not a serial killer. He's a situational killer. He just wanted to get rid of his wife. He's not a serial killer. Now, Paul Flores, if he takes women back and rapes and does things to them, I don't know if he's a serial killer or is he a date rapist who gets out of control like Joran van der Sloot. I believe Joran van der Sloot was not a serial killer. He was a really bad date, So he killed 2 women, and both of them because they, I think, objected to him, and it didn't go well, So I remember Joran said the same thing about Natalie. He said he left her at the hotel, in front of the hotel. Yeah, it's amazing. It's like the same guy in 2 different countries. I mean, it's really fascinating that way. Molly says, Eddie and Kiely, the sniffer dogs, were never wrong, and they weren't wrong in Portugal either. But, it's something you can't usually put into court because can't prove it. Even if they're well-trained, so they'll call that junk science. But I'm going to review this just to see exactly why Paul Flores got convicted. But somebody asked if I would speak about it, and I wanted to do that. So I thought I would, do a short thing on that. Let me talk about Parkland because I think this kind of drove me nuts. And I don't do political things. And I thought of doing this as a separate thing, but I know it's going to be picked up totally as a political thing. But this is my concern here. DeSantis calls for changes to the death penalty after verdict in Parkland mass shooting. He considers it a miscarriage of justice. And listen what he has to say. He's calling for changes in Florida's death penalty law. The need for reform is front and center. Okay. He says a miscarriage of justice. He said that in 2017, the laws in Florida changed, requiring a ununanimous. Okay. Wait a minute. Oh, sorry. Let me rephrase this. In 2017, the laws in Florida changed, requiring a unanimous jury to recommend the death penalty. DeSantis wants to go back to the majority rules in this. All right. So many thought the 2018 mass murder of 17 people at the high school would result in a slam dunk death penalty recommendation verdict. But in a 9-3 split, 9 for death, 3 for life, the death penalty was not an option for Nicholas Cruz, who pleaded guilty to murder charges. Okay. Pissed off a lot of people. Now, here's my problem with this. Here's my problem. If the death penalty is an acceptable law, is a law, not acceptable. I'll just say if it's a law in a state, when a person is up for the death penalty, I don't think that is the time to have people who are anti-death penalty on the jury. Okay? Because you're not trying to determine whether the death penalty is right or wrong. You're trying to determine whether the guy, if this is a case that the death penalty should be used in. Now, if you don't believe in the death penalty, fine. But then there shouldn't be a death penalty case, period. It should just be he gets life and that's the end of it. But if the death penalty exists, the point should be, Does this match the standard for a person that should get the death penalty as long as you believe in the death penalty? Well, I would say a premeditated murder of 17 students kind of means that would be the top, that would be like a no-brainer. Now, you might say a person who kills his wife, one person, maybe there's questions whether the guy's really guilty. Let's give him life because we don't want to make a mistake, killing an innocent person. But somebody like Ted Bundy, right at the top. If the death penalty exists, Ted Bundy. If the death penalty exists, what's his name? Nicholas Cruz. This should have been a no-brainer. But if you allow a jury to have people on it who don't believe in the death penalty, then the whole thought process is stupid to begin with, because you're going to get people there who say, well, I don't believe in the death penalty, I'm not going to give it to them. So I don't understand, because I think every one of those people should have been pro-death penalty if they're going to determine this death penalty for this one person. Otherwise, just do something about the law, but don't see. And that's one of the problems of this citizen jury again is, do they ask? I don't know how. I assume they ask you, do you object to the death penalty? And theoretically, you should say yes and not be there. You should go someplace else because you don't want to be part of this. But some people, I think, will say, I do believe in it, and then when they get in there, they're like, this is my opportunity to get rid of the death penalty, and I'm going to vote against it. And since it requires unanimous, all they need is one person to stop the death penalty in this case, which I don't believe in. So that's what bothers me about it. So I believe that fight if you're against the death penalty, fine, fight against it, but I don't think it belongs in a court when you're actually pronouncing the death penalty, because that's not what it's about. The death penalty is legal in Florida, and it has rules as to who should get it and who shouldn't. And that's what you're determining, who reaches that standard of no question. But if you're against the death penalty, you shouldn't be there on that jury. That's my opinion. I think that was wrong. And so yeah, he's going to get life for killing 17 people. It really bothers me. Cheryl says, we don't have the death penalty here in the UK, but if anyone deserves it, it's the Parkland guy. Yeah, to kill all those children. I think the judge should decide on the penalty. I say if you don't want to have the death penalty no matter what, that's one way to go. But once you have it as a law, you should honor it by having people there who believe in it, and then decide whether this is a guy who should get it or shouldn't get it. And yeah, he's like a poster boy for the death penalty. And I always point this out, he believes in the death penalty because he gave the death penalty to 17 young teenagers, and they didn't get a trial. Yeah. So anyway, the same state that gave us the case in the Anthony verdict. Well, I had Jose Bias, and don't let me go there. Don't let me go there. Let's see. Was there anything else before I wrap it up? Oh, okay. One last thing before I wrap it up, because it is getting late and I'm hungry and I have burritos waiting there. Okay, so this one is a bizarre crime. I just have to mention it because it's so weird. 4 men. These men. This happened in Oklahoma. Oklahoma. A place called I can't pronounce it. Okmulgee. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Oklahoma. So these 4 men, they went out on their bicycles. It started sounding like something like, oh my God. They went out on their bicycles and they were found shot, dismembered, and the remains dumped in a river. 4 guys go out on a bicycle. I'm thinking, when I first started reading this, I'm thinking, oh, they're out on their bicycles, they're bicyclists. And then I saw their faces and I'm like, oh, I don't think I put their pictures up here. Okay. Here's the guys. And okay, I'm just going to put this up. I know we shouldn't judge people by their faces, but I'm just going to say, I'm going to have to bring this over to y'all. So hold on a second while I move this over to my StreamYard so I can put it up on the screen. Oh, don't be like that. What are we doing here? No. Oh, here we go. Sorry. It's in slow mode. It's whirring. I wanted to say, and on one hand, I felt bad because, I had, this is, I wouldn't do if I were analyzing a case, I wouldn't say, gee, those dudes look like, you know what I mean? Because that's wrong. But, when we're humans, and sometimes when we're just sitting at home and we're reading stuff, right? Reading the news, and we see something, those thoughts come into our mind because we are human. Okay, let me show you the 4 guys that went out for their bicycle ride. Okay, here they are. Hold on a second. Come up here. Okay, here they are, finally. Okay, here they are. Billy, Mark, Alex, Ray, and Michael, I guess. All right, these guys went out for their bike ride. And I'm just looking at them going, they don't really look like bicyclists to me, but maybe just bad pictures. Maybe I have a bad, I have an idea of what bicyclists look like. I'm like, they don't really look like bicyclists to me. So I'm like, so they go out, and let's see what it says. So they went out. I think they went out. Was it at night? Okay, wait a minute. Hold on a second. When did they leave? Well, that just a weekend. Okay, so they're found in the river. Mark, 32, Billy, 30, Mike, 32, and Alex, 29, have been reported missing. The 4 men whom police described as close friends were last seen leaving Billy's house on bicycles, pulling trailers. I mean, don't these guys own motorcycles? But maybe it's quieter with your trailer. I'm going to tell you what. This is interesting. During a press conference, based on information, police believe the victims planned to commit some kind of criminal act when they left the house. The witness told the investigators that the men were planning to hit a lick big enough for all of them. I had to look up hit a lick, which means you're going to do something that's going to make you a lot of money. So, 4 guys go out on bicycles with trailers behind them. I'm going to say they're stealing something. So anyway, the police don't know what the men were planning to do. But during the days-long search for them, they were able to trace their movements to a salvage yard and then a local gas station using data from an app. After leaving the station, the men visited a second scrapyard where Kristen's phone was turned off. It was on property next to the second yard where police now believe a violent event occurred, resulting in the deaths of the 4 men. The owner of the 2 salvage yards, identified by police as Joe Kennedy, has been named as a person of interest. I think he ran and was found in Florida. He was the owner of one of the salvage yards. I believe he claimed somewhere that he was just protecting a salvage yard, and he might well have been doing so. But he apparently looks like he might have shot all of them and then tried to get rid of them. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's so I just want to point out, sometimes when you do things that are illegal, it doesn't end well for you. And I just thought it's like, hit a lick. That's interesting. But, when I saw their faces, I just kept thinking, they're going out for a bicycle ride? I know I judge people by the way they look. That was not right. And let's see, was there anything else? I think that's it, unless I have one more here. Hold on a second. Okay. I think I've covered all the ones I thought I was going to cover today. Let me tell you what I'm going to do coming up. I am going to, and I'm not sure when the case show this weekend is going to be. I want to mention, because I was asked about to do this case, Anne McCann. I'm going to do a show on Anne McCann. She's a girl that left Alexandria, Virginia, near me, and then ended up dead in Baltimore. And it's one of these, they ruled it a suicide, but the family's like, what? And it's got some really strange stuff. In this case, I have to stop for a minute and go, there are some weird things about this case. So I'm going to look more into that case. I'm going to do a show on that. Not exactly sure when. I might do 2 this. I'm running into this problem. I'm going to Ocean City because my granddaughter is going to be participating in a doggy Halloween parade. She's going to be the big bad wolf, and her little fluffy dog is going to be Little Red Riding Hood. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to be the granny she's bringing the basket to, or the doggy's bringing the basket to. But anyway, so I'm going to be away for the weekend. I don't know when I'm getting back on Sunday. So I may do the show on Friday afternoon or evening. I'm not quite sure yet, but the show I'm going to do, before I do the Anne McCann thing, which I do want to do because I think it's really interesting, I'm going to do, let me get the name of it correct, It's because I will draw a blank otherwise. Hold on a second. What's going on here? Oh, yeah. I'm going to do, there was a Netflix show about, let's see, when was it? About 2 years ago, 2020. It's called Murder on Middle Beach. It is the murder of Barbara Beach Hamburg. And they did a show. It's a 4-part show on Netflix. When I send out the thing, I will, I'm sorry, not Netflix, HBO. If you have HBO, go look up Murder on Middle Beach. Go ahead and watch it. It's 4 parts. And she was brutally murdered right in front of her house. And like everybody in her family is a suspect. I mean, and then possibly other people and some of her friends too. So, I mean, and she's living a relatively well-off life. And yet it's some bizarre stuff in that family. And the question is, who actually killed her? And I have a suspect I think is most likely to have committed the crime. So if you watch this thing, you'll have to see whether I have the same suspect as you. And it's still unsolved. He did this 4-part series, the Sun did, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to have a second series on it, because I'm sure it was very popular and it hasn't been solved, so he can make more money. So definitely check out that, and I'll send out probably by tomorrow. I'll send out, when I figure out when I'm doing it, I'll send out the link to the show and what time it is, and Murder on Middle Beach, HBO, if you have HBO. So that's what I'm going to do, because I thought that was really super interesting. And I'm going to do the Anna McCann thing too. And now I say more are coming in every day to do, but Middle Beach was really interesting. I like it when I get a really interesting show. Oh, that is so nice. Oh, thank you, Lisa. I'm glad you like the hangouts and the shows. That's why I do it. Carrie says, excellent hangout. Great. I will look. I have to look more at the Kristen Smart thing. I mean, he's obviously the suspect, but I'm just curious because, you know, I'm big on a circumstantial case. It's okay to have a circumstantial case. It's okay to convict on a circumstantial case, but I do understand they're slightly more difficult than forensic cases where there's solid forensics. And a lot of times these people walk on a circumstantial case, and I have to look into this to find out, A, whether I agree with the jury that there was sufficient evidence for conviction, and if there is, hallelujah, the jury got it right. But I haven't looked into the case hard enough to understand what they had, because I know he had like damage. I hit a black eye the next day, and his story changed on why he had the black eye. I'm pretty sure it's him, but I'd be curious to see how much information there is about that. I'm glad, love learning about evidence-based profiling, and that's the way profiling should be, not a bunch of whatever. Oh, and if you didn't see my Darrell Brooks, I did a short on Darrell Brooks, if you haven't seen that yet, because I just had to. And so it's just a short. It was my first short I've ever done on YouTube. And I have to do it with your phone, and it's done a whole different way. But I had to do one on because I did look at a little bit of that trial, which is just absolute cockamamie nonsense. I can't even believe it's happening that way. So, but oh, good. Saw it. Very cute and to the point. It's hysterical. You're short. I just wanted to have some fun because the whole trial is just unbelievable. It's hard to even fathom how it's going to go on. It's like a bad SNL skit, only it's real. And it's sad because it's a hate crime, and the guy ran over a bunch of, I think, 6 people and children, and horrifying crime, which wasn't done with a gun like Parkland, but he ran everybody over and killed them just as well. And this mockery in this courtroom, where a guy's representing himself and he's incompetent as all get out. But I will mention this. You can get an appeal if your lawyer is incompetent, right? That's number one thing for an appeal. And I had to look this up because I'm like, is he just playing a game so that he's so incompetent that he's going to automatically get an appeal? And I found out that no, actually, if you represent your case in court, you represent yourself, you make yourself your lawyer and didn't choose somebody else, you can't actually use that. You can't use that for appeal. You can't say, I had an incompetent lawyer in myself. I thought that was good news because I was really afraid he was going to use that crap. So, but thank God he can't. So, because it's just appalling. Unbelievable. And I know people are watching it because it's like watching a train wreck. It's just so horrifying and just so hard to even fathom. But it's horrifically sad for the families who have to watch this monster who killed their loved ones sit up there and make a mockery of the system and put it's just hard to believe. It's just something that's going to go down in history. It's just one of those most incredible things that should never have happened. And people around the world must be making fun of the fact that he can even do this in the American courtroom. So, yeah. So anyway, thank you for being here. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy hangouts with you guys. And again, if you're new here and you'd like to be at the hangout, please click Patreon and join. You can come to all the 8 lives during the month. If you don't want to do that, just like the video. Please do subscribe to the channel on YouTube. All my videos are always public to everybody. So because I want people to learn, and so they're definitely going to be there for you. So please do subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you get notifications of new stuff I put out, and share in your true crime groups. That'll help the channel stay alive as well. So thank you for being here, and I will see you sometime later this week, guys who are patrons here, and then. Yeah, Middle Beach. Come and see.